Hey everybody, I'm Joe Briery. I'm the creator of the comic Dilly. Hey, you guys, I wanted to come on here. A very major subject that I want to discuss with you guys, a little history lesson here. And this is not really the history of comics, but the different genres of comics. And talking about why it's important to read the older comics. I'm going to get into that here in a minute. But first, there are different eras of comics, all the way back to the Victorian age. When you talk about comics that were set more in a culture-based era, like for example, going back to the 1700s during the colonial times with the misadventures of Obadiah Oldbuck, and that spanning all the way to the Yellow Kid, the Katzenjammer Kids, which were about German immigrants, Buster Brown, and so forth. As far as superhero comics, you didn't really start seeing those till about 1935 during the Platinum Age, where you had the Shadow, the Phantom, and even Tarzan, if you really want to get technical, and a lot of your Western comics as well. So now, I want to touch bases on why it is so important to read the older comics. The other night I was sitting here reading through a stack of comic books, and I went through 6 of them. And these are all old comic strip-based comics, kind of like what Dilly is, which is what I'm really into because I think that's really the foundation of how comics grew. Although superhero, sci-fi, and manga are right now the major ones out there, and that's what the majority of the people are reading. Great comics, love reading those as well. So the other night I was sitting here, I was reading some old Bugs Bunny comics, Coyote and the Roadrunner, Yosemite Sam, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, Grape Ape, and I have a whole ton of them in there. I was also reading a John Candy comic, Camp Candy, that came out in 1990. And all these are kind of a comic strip-based comic book. Very humored, really stuff that I'm really into. Now, the reason why I find that this is important to read these old comics is to get an understanding of how comics can be different genres, different eras. What was popular back in this day is not necessarily popular now. But like music, for example, and I'm a musician, understanding music like classical, jazz, blues, early rock and roll, so forth and so on, to get an understanding of the music of today. Once again, it's important to learn the education. So I have a ton in here. I read Grape Ape the other night, which I was cracking up at. And these were all comics from the ones I bought, I think were from the 1970s, so when I was a kid. I bought them for 25 cents each in a quarter bin at a comic book shop up in Carson City where I live, Dreamwell Comics. So if you go through and you read these, you'll notice the difference, all the way down to the type of paper they used, which was newsprint back then. The color saturation was different. The storylines were set up differently. And also the way they do the comic bubble. Like now you'll see things overlap, you'll see things a little bit more of that nature. So, it's always important for me to be able to get an understanding of that. And this is something I urge all of you to do, is to take a look at that and say, oh wow, okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at it and read it and kind of see what the old comics and how they compare to the new ones, how they're written. Things were written differently back then as well. So you guys, check out the classic comics, read them, kind of give yourself an idea and how these comics evolved. And I didn't even go into the whole thing with Archie, which really set the tone for comics and for those type of comics. And also, if you get a chance, go online and read some old comic strips. Check those out. Read some of the old ones like Beetle Bailey, Andy Cap, Garfield, Peanuts, BC, you name it. And there's a whole ton more that you can read. There's a whole slew of them you can read even at Archamax.com that gives you all of those. And there's just a whole list. Take your pick. Pickles, Wizard of Vid, Luann, they're all there. Hey, I'm Joe Briery. I'm the creator of Dilly. I hope you enjoyed this short video. And don't forget, pretty soon I'll have the next issue of Dilly coming out, issue 4. I'm working on that right now. So I've been taking some time off from creating Dilly or creating more episodes of Dilly in order to do this. So be on the lookout for that and I'll keep you posted. You guys, have a good one. keep on reading. Peace.